economics. We are in chapter 5 and we are discussing about the government budget and the economy. That is how government budget plays an important role in the economy is what we are discussing in this chapter, right? So far in chapter 4 we have completely neglected the government sector. We spoke only about the households and firms, how they work, with each other and what was consumption expenditure. Based on that consumption and investment expenditure, we have decided the aggregate demand, the output and the equilibrium income, output and employment we discussed. What did we do here? In chapter 5 we have again taken the role of government sector in adjusting, stabilizing the fluctuations to manage the fluctuations that happen in the economy. Of course, fluctuations are possible because when the income is more, the consumption becomes more. When the consumption is more, the demand becomes more. Right? Anything out of that equation, if it increases, definitely the demand increases. So to match the demand, the firms have to produce more. Okay, that only we saw through investment multiplier. In chapter 5, we started discussing about what is a budget, what is the role of the objectives of a budget. In that we have spoken about the allocation function, the redistribution function and the stabilization function we have discussed, and the components of the government budget, the revenue receipts, the capital receipts, revenue expenditures and capital expenditures. So all those we have discussed, and further we moved on to discuss about the balanced, surplus and a deficit budget. What is a balanced budget, children? When the expenditures are equal to the receipts, revenues that we get, it's called a balanced budget. When the expenditures are more than the revenue, the receipts that you get, then it is called a deficit budget. And when the expenditures are less than the income that the government gets, then it's called a surplus budget. A government usually tries to go for or aim at a surplus budget, but what does it mean? It happens either as a surplus budget or it goes into a deficit budget. So in that deficit budget, we have seen the various measures of deficit budget like fiscal deficit, primary deficit and the revenue deficit. All these three we have discussed. In connection with the redistribution function and in connection with the government budget itself, now we are in the process of discussing about the fiscal policy. Right, children? We are discussing about what? The fiscal policy. And under the topic fiscal policy, we have spoken about various things like how the changes in government expenditure will affect the aggregate demand and how it affects the output, how it changes. So just like an investment multiplier, the government expenses also leads to a multiplier called the government spending multiplier. So we have continued with the equations that went on. And then we spoke about the changes in taxes. How do they affect the aggregate demand and in turn how does it affect the equilibrium? All these we have seen. Now what is the importance or what is the need for this change in taxes? It is in relation with the redistribution function of the government budget. That is, taxes are levied. When you talk about direct taxes especially, it is levied on the income that we earn. So when we deduct the income, income minus taxes will become your disposable income, right? The income that you can use is called your disposable income. So income minus taxes gives you the what? Disposable income. So we spoke about lump sum taxes, a particular amount of tax, 10,000 or 20,000 or 100 rupees, whatever it was. We discussed how to calculate that. So we saw that government spending, that is the government expenditures, they have a direct change in the aggregate demand and in turn the output and the income. But when we talk about the tax, change in taxes, it enters a multiplier. Here even we have a multiplier. So it enters a multiplier, tax multiplier, and through this tax multiplier, it will change the aggregate demand, it will change the income, everything. So what did we discuss about the taxes? When we go for a tax cut, when we decrease the tax, what happens at the time? The income increases. When the income of an individual increases, the consumption done is more. Right, the consumption increases. When the consumption government expenditure. This is what we are discussing again and again and again. So whichever any of these increases, what happens? It will increase the aggregate demand and in turn it automatically enters a multiplier to increase the output that you need to produce. So the C of Y, how it was given? C bar plus this Y is Y minus T. Taxes also were taken into account. Okay, so when the taxes are less, when they are decreasing, the income increases. When the income increases, of course the demand is also going to increase. We are not talking about the autonomous consumption, we are talking only about the induced consumption and vice versa. When taxes levied or more, when you are facing a deficit budget, we saw that we are going to have, we are going to have to increase the taxes. So what happens? When you increase the taxes, automatically the income falls. When the income falls, the induced consumption will also fall. So definitely the aggregate demand will what? Will reduce. But most of the cases, we have spoken about a tax cut. Okay? That will make you will have a negative multiplier. What do you have? A negative multiplier you get. Right. So what are we doing to manage this government expenditures? We have the taxes. To manage the government expenditures, what do you have? You have taxes because taxes is considered to be receipts and government expenditure is an expenditure. And when you want to have a balanced budget, you have to equalize the receipts and the expenditures. So what did we do? We had a balanced budget multiplier. What was it we discussed, children, in the previous session? We discussed about the balanced budget multiplier. So how did we give it? We have this was your government spending multiplier. This was your tax multiplier. So when you add it, when you are going to make it together, because it's an adding formula. So when you make it together, we give the denominator to be the same and numerator we're going to add. So 1 minus C by 1 minus C. When you cancel, you get the value of 1. This is called what? The balanced budget multiplier, and this is how you can derive into a balanced budget. When government expenses are more, you are going to collect taxes which will match it, which will help you to stabilize the function. So it not only helps in redistribution function, but it is going to help in the stabilization function of the government budget also. Alright children, this is what we discussed. And based on this, the equilibrium income changes. Right? So what happens? How do you determine the equilibrium income? There were various multipliers, and in each multiplier many rounds usually will go on. So we should give enough time for the multiplier to complete the rounds that it wants to go. Till it becomes infinite, till it does not change, till it reaches to a point where the multiplier is going to remain the same. Then we can proceed to find the equilibrium income in what we have discussed. So far, these were the various things that we discussed about change in taxes and how we are going to find. What are we going to discuss in this particular video session? We are going to talk about the case of proportional taxes. These were the change in taxes and I spoke about lump sum taxes. Now we are going to have proportional taxes. So, here lump sum taxes does not have any connection with what is their income, like the indirect taxes. Now what are we going to do? We are going to have a proportion, some particular percentage. So when you have a discount, when you announce for a discount of 20%, whatever is the cost of the product, from that they calculate 20%. It's a proportion. Same way only here also we are going to have a proportionate tax. And how is it going to affect the aggregate demand and the equilibrium output is what we are going to discuss in this session. Case of proportional is this constant fraction of tax going to be? It is going to be T. It is going to be T. So when you talk about the tax, it's going to be given as T is tax, right? So it's going to be given as T of Y, a proportion, a constant fraction of a tax, a proportion of tax. Right. So what are we going to discuss? A more realistic assumption would be that government collects a constant fraction T of income in the form of taxes, so that T, taxes is equal to T into Y, a particular percentage is given here. The consumption function with proportional taxes are going to change again. And how is it given? Again we are going to change what? C is equal to autonomous consumption plus C of, we are going to do what? We are going to have values out of the Y, right, of the income. How is it going to change is what we are going to discuss. C of Y minus T of Y plus, what is this T as children? Already we have discussed this. Transfer payments done by the government towards us. Okay, that is called as what? TR dash. So how do you present it? C bar plus, we are going to take this C into it and we are going to find new values. 1 minus T, taking out what? Y is taken out because Y only we are going to bring it out, plus C into TR dash. And what is this? This is our equation 5.14. So what happens here? The proportional tax is not only lower consumption at each level of income but also lower the slope of the consumption function. It not only talks about an individual but entirely makes the slope of consumption to fall. Right, when we have a proportion of tax, we are going to reduce the consumption, right? So when the consumption is less, the demand is also going to be less. So it is not only going to lower the consumption but it is entirely going to lower the consumption function itself. The MPC out of income falls to C. What happens to the MPC? It falls to C. The new aggregate demand schedule AD dash has a larger intercept. So you remember the linear intercept form, right? So this is an intercept. So here, due to this function, the intercept will be more. But instead of having a slope like this, you have a very flat slope like this. Why? Because the consumption function has fallen and that is why the aggregate demand also falls. So what are we going to have now? We are going to have another equation for what? For the aggregate demand. How are we going to find the aggregate demand is equal to C bar plus what? Plus this. Right? This is what we have found. Right. So this is what we are going to take now, plus investment expenditure and government expenditure. So small c into 1 minus t into y plus c CR dash plus investment expenditure plus government expenditure. What do you do with all the expenditures? Already we have discussed once that all the expenditures are brought to the same value mentioned as what? Autonomous expenditure. Right, it is mentioned as what, children? Autonomous expenditure plus C into 1 minus T y. And what equation is it? 5.15. Right, and what do we know? AD is equal to what? Y. We know that AD is equal to Y. Now, if this is AD, then Y is equal to autonomous expenditure plus 1 minus T into 1. This is going to be equation number 5.16. So, the output is going to be given as here. And when you want to find the equilibrium This Y only is mentioned as 1. The C is what? MPC, your marginal propensity to consume. Clear children? What is this for? For finding the equilibrium income. If you want to find the equilibrium income, you want to fall into another equation. And when you want to find the multiplier, okay? Already we had investment multiplier, then we had the government spending multiplier, then we had the tax multiplier, and now we are going to talk about this proportional tax multiplier. So how is it going to be? Delta Y by delta A. What is delta A, children? The autonomous expenditure is equal to, and this is your equation. For what, children? This is your multiplier. So the value of the multiplier with lump sum taxes, we find that the value has become smaller. So when you compare this value with the value of lump sum taxes, the multiplier becomes less because lump sum taxes will not reduce income to that level. Okay, lump sum taxes, whatever remaining income you have, you use it for consumption. But when you have a proportional tax, you have a thing like the consumption is increased by exactly the same proportional type. Alright, lump sum tax you have a particular amount, there is no proportion, but here we have a particular proportion and hence the consumption is increased by the same proportion. Okay, so what is given here? When income rose as a result of an increase in government spending in the case of lump sum taxes, consumption increased by C times the increase in income. With proportional tax, consumption will rise by less because C times the increase in income. C minus Ct is equal to C into 1 minus T. What did we do here? The consumption is deducted from the taxes, so because of the proportion it happens. Children, get it very clear. In case of lump sum taxes, what is the case of lump sum taxes? Tax cut. When you have a decrease in taxes, income increases and in turn consumption increases. Whatever tax you have collected, based on that it happens. When you talk about proportional tax, the consumption will increase a little because the proportion is based on what? On your income. Right? A certain proportion. When you talk about a certain proportion, you are not sure of everybody's change. So it will increase consumption a little. Compared to the lump sum taxes, it will increase it by a little but not the entire thing. Deducting 1000 rupees and deducting 1% is different. Right, so when you reduce the tax by 1000, you know for sure. But when you have 1% of your income, whatever income you have earned, based on that it's going to change. Right, because what? It's going to be a proportion and that is why we have this. Okay, for changes in G, the multiplier will now be given with a different equation. You will have what? 2 more equations. Go through all the equations, children. It's quite easy. One equation is derived from another. That's it. It's not that it's a whole different equation. No. One equation is derived from another equation. It's not given entirely. What are you going to find now? You are going to find the change in income, change in the output. That is what you are going to find based on the government expenditure. What are you going to do for that? Delta Y is equal to, you are going to have the delta G. What is the change in the government expenditure? And what else you have to do? Plus C into 1 minus what? T. What is this 1 minus T, children? Your taxes, right? Into delta Y, which is 5.19. So what is another equation that we are going to do? We are just going to bring everything together to the same side. Here one delta Y we have, we need to cancel that. And what do you get? That delta Y is equal to, we already have it here. Right? 1 by 1 minus C into 1 minus T into what? The government expenditure only, right? 5.16 and 5.17, 5.19 and 5.20 are relatively same. The way you bring it is same. Fine children, they have given you an example. It's very simple for you to understand, so I hope I'm not going to explain it to you. It is in the case of how lump sum tax is same 0.8 instead of 0.8, they have changed the tax level. You have been given a new C value, and with that you're going to just calculate it. What are we going to do here? The income increases from Y to Y dash. So when you are going to present it in the form of a figure, the income is going to increase because of the proportional taxes, but not that much. Isn't it? We already saw the intercept is going to be more. Right, the intercept might be more, but we discussed that the slope is a lot flatter. That is given in figure 5.4. So what has happened there? You have the 45-degree line from here. Okay. And then the second slope, what happens? The intercept, if you see, the second one, intercept is more, but it is more of a flatter slope. That is what we have discussed in this one, particular 5.4, figure 5.4. What are we going to do now? We are going to do with 5.5. So how the effects of a reduction in the proportional tax rate is going to affect. So if there is not going to be a change in the intercept, we are going to have the 45-degree line, and from this intercept we are going to have a line. From the same intercept we are going to have a different slope. Okay, so we are going to have here one equilibrium, here one income, here one equilibrium, here one income. Right, children? That's it. Now what are we going to discuss? The AD curve shifts up to AD dash. At the initial level of income, aggregate demand for goods exceeds output because the tax reduction causes increased consumption. The new higher level of income. So when there is a proportional tax, when there is a decrease in the tax and increase in the income, it rises. What rises? The demand rises. And when demand rises, what do you have to do? The output also should be raised. Now why do we have to do all these things? This is called what? A stabilization function. Fine. What is the work of proportional tax? Why do we have, or what is the need of having proportional tax? Proportional tax is also called as an automatic stabilizer. Okay? So when you're talking about proportional tax, what happens? It serves as an automatic stabilizer because there is not going to be much of a change in the income level because it's going to be a proportional tax only. Okay, unlike lump sum tax change, this is going to be a proportional tax. When there is a change in the proportional taxes, it is not going to affect the income or the consumption a lot. There is not going to be a major fluctuation. When you have a major fluctuation, of course, to bear it is entirely different. Imagine your income all of a sudden rises too much, you will not know where to spend your amount. So the consumption function increases a lot, the demand increases, and you might not be able to give the reasonable output for that. Right, so what happens here? It acts as a shock absorber because of the fluctuations. These fluctuations are termed as what? Shocks, and the stabilizing function is called as a shock absorbers because it makes disposable income and thus consumer spending less sensitive to fluctuations in GDP. So it's not going to affect much. When the GDP falls also, the income is not going to get much of a difference. Imagine a difference of 10,000 in your income and only 1,000 in your income. You can manage it. Right? A large difference is going to really affect you. It's going to be a shock. It's going to be a really big fluctuation. Here, this proportional income tax is going to help you by acting as a shock absorber. How? Because when there is a fluctuation fluctuation in GDP also, we are not going to have a major change in our disposable income and consumer spending. We are not going to have much of a deviation or much of a problem over there. And what is one more thing? This helps limit the upward fluctuation in consumption spending. As I said, when the taxes are all of a sudden cut off so much, the income rises and immediately the consumption rises. As I said, when the consumption rises, the demand rises, and all of a sudden you cannot go for such a big output. Right. So what happens? It avoids, it limits the upward fluctuation in consumption spending. And at the same time, it acts the vice versa also. So when the GDP falls in a recession period, when the GDP falls, the income, the disposable income falls less sharply. It's not so much of a change, so you can manage it. If it falls so much, see example, a family had an income of 10,000 rupees per month. Because of taxes, only because of taxes, okay, because of lump sum taxes, it was reduced from 1,000 rupees to 500 rupees, 9,500. So the consumption exceeds. When in case of add up taxes, lump sum taxes, somewhere because of the recession, it's somewhere around 2,000. It falls short. For a family, this 1,500 is a big change. So what does this proportional tax does? It avoids this fluctuation. It makes the individual to survive this position, both the positions. Whether you have a good income that particular, good GDP that particular year, the consumption is not increased too much, and at the same time during recession, the individuals, people of the economy do not suffer much. Okay, this is what we have discussed. Fine. Now this function is there, right? To stabilize the economy is often referred to as discretionary fiscal policy. It's called what? Discretionary fiscal policy. Discretionary means you are not telling it. Okay? This is a stabilization function. Right, children? So this deliberate function, why do we say deliberate? It's very mild. You cannot identify that such a big change has happened. Imagine your mom gives you 4 idlis to eat every morning, okay? When she reduces it to 3 idlis or 3.5, then you won't mind it. But when she reduces it to 1 idli, you will easily identify. I am just telling a solid thing. But when you talk about rice, you will definitely not understand. When you fall into a diet also, all of a sudden your body cannot accept from a bowl of rice to a spoon of rice, but slowly it can adjust itself. That's how a diet goes. Same way only here also, it has been done in proportions, right? So it does not attack or give problems to the people of the economy a lot. It's somewhere like you get used to it and the country is able to manage it. Okay, and that's why this is called as discretionary fiscal policy. Okay, and what happens here? Welfare transfers also helps to stabilize income. One more way, taxes we know they are stabilizing, and one more thing that helps you there is called as welfare transfers. When the country has attained good GDP, now we keep the proportional tax to not disturb us. Okay, so when your country is in a boom, it has got good GDP, it can give you welfare, it can give you the welfare transfers. That's what we discussed in transfer payments, right? TR dash. The transfer payments can help you out. And in kind of recessions, what happens? High recession times, people, like the government helps you with some income. For example, let's get it clear, okay? What happens? Balanced budget, deficit budget, surplus budget, right? Balanced budget means revenues, receipts and expenditures are equal, fine. Then surplus is when the amount is more, the receipts are more than the income. And the deficit budget is when what? When we have the expenditure more than the receipts that we have. Same thing might happen to the people of the country. That is, when the country is facing a deficit, when you know that the national income has been good, or when there was enough exports, the employment opportunities were good, when the government knows it, it collects more tax. Okay, so that it can match it. And during times of difficulties, they can use that money to help us out. So for example, now we saw that during this pandemic situation, many of us couldn't go for work, many families got affected by this particular situation, and even today's news also we saw that people who were living in highly paid homes are vacating it and moving into homes that collects less rent because they're not affordable to pay it. The situation is like that. Many of them have lost their employment opportunities, have had salary, so many things were faced by the people. Right. Even big organizations, IT industries, we are hearing that instead of having a large square feet area, they're just vacating that and they're just moving it to a smaller square feet area where only their office room can work. Other than any other employees who come and work, they have only the office room space to work and they're moving it. Why? Because they don't have enough amount to afford for anything. In such pandemic situations, we know that our government has announced few economic reforms or few economic policies where they gave things free of cost. Right? They gave many things, they gave essential things for the people free of cost. They kind of went out and helped the people. How they are doing it? During the good period, they collect tax, they save it, and now they are just going to give it to us. And at times what happens, the countries has to borrow or get grants, cash grants from other countries, and they are going to do it. Why? Because the consumption falls, the entire economy will fall. Only if we have some money, only if we have something to do, then it will be good. So we will get cash grants like that. So these are all called as shock absorbers to avoid a major fluctuation. We are to get affected, to avoid people to get affected by these major fluctuations. We have various measures which are called as shock absorbers, and that are done through what? The discretionary fiscal policy. Okay, the last thing that we are going to discuss about in this particular topic is that we are going to talk about transfers. So what we are going to do, instead of raising the government expenditure, spending in goods and services, government increases transfer payments. So we saw that the aggregate demand has to be increased by the government expenditures. So instead of going for this government expenditures, they can go for giving this welfare transfer to people, and that is for what? Transfer payments. So when transfer payments increase, of course what is going to increase? Consumption is going to increase. When consumption increases, the demand definitely increases. So the autonomous spending also will increase by C delta TR dash. So output also will reduce. But here you cannot say the way it increased with the government spending will increase some, because when we get some welfare measures from the government, the transfer payments, people don't spend entirely. If government is going to spend 1,000 rupees directly, fine. But if the government is going to give that 1,000 rupees as a transfer payment to an individual, the individual might choose to spend 700 rupees and save 300 rupees. We have a saving function, marginal propensity to save, right? So in that case, the consumption falls by 300. You get it, children? So government expenditure is going to be 1,000. the demand will increase by 1000 rupees, whereas it will increase only by 700 rupees. And what is the shortage? 300 rupees will fall as a shortage here. So how are we going to have a multiplier here also? Just like the government spending multiplier and the taxation multiplier for the change in equilibrium income, we are going to have two more equations to tell us about the transfer payment multipliers. Okay. Final equations of this particular chapter is going to be even like this. So the change in equilibrium income, that is what is mentioned as delta y. And what are we going to have? C bar 1 minus C into delta dr dash. What is this? Marginal propensity to consume. This is your 5.20, right? 1. Or else how can you give? Another way to bring the delta T at this side, you get delta y by delta dr is equal to, this is what? This is your transfer payment multiplier. To find what? The equilibrium. So far we have discussed how government spending, how lump sum taxes, how proportional taxes, and how transfer payments affects the equilibrium income, how it has changed everything, how it is going to change the aggregate demand, and in turn how is it going to affect the output. All these details we have discussed so far. The topic that is left out in this particular chapter is going to talk about debt. When we have deficits, when we have surplus, what do we do? When we have deficits, we borrow. So how is it going to, how the government is going to handle with this? Even in this pandemic situation, the government might have borrowed something from other countries to lend us. Right? Sometimes it happens. Or in times when we have a primary deficit, when you have a fiscal deficit, already we have seen that governments borrow not only for new investments, but they also borrow to manage the deficit that they are facing with the present budget. Right. So at that time, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to reduce the deficit? How are we going to make it a balanced budget? Even though we try for a surplus budget, let us at least try to reduce the deficit and make it a balanced budget at least. So that is what we are going to discuss in the next video session, children, and that will be the last topic that we will be discussing in this particular chapter. Right, children? So go through the text, go through the video, try to answer the worksheet, and if you have any doubts, feel free to reach me out. Thank you, and may you all have a wonderful day.